Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So in this lesson now we have raw. So let us see in which conditions raw will be heavy, in which conditions raw will be light. So the raw to be heavy or tafkheem, there are 8 cases. First one is if the raw is bearing fatha. Second, if the raw is with sukoon and the letter before it is having fatha, and third case is if the ra is with sakin and the letter preceding it with sakin and the letter preceding this sakin letter is with fatha, and the fourth case is if the ra is with dhamma. Fifth case is if the ra with sakin and the before letter is bearing dhamma, and sixth case is if the ra is sakin, the letter preceding this ra is sakin, and the letter with sakin, the letter preceding it is with dhamma. So ra is with heavy tafkheem. We will read heavy. And the seventh case is if the ra is with sakin and before it is having hamzatul wasl. If the ra is heavy and before it is having hamzatul wasl. And if the ra is sakin before it is having kasra, and after ra there is a heavy letter that is not having kasra. After the ra sakin there is a heavy letter, musta'aliya letter, that is not with kasra, without kasra, and the ra is having before a letter, the letter before ra is appearing kasra, ra is with sakin, and the letter after ra, that is a heavy letter without kasra. So in that case also we read ra with tafkheem, heavy. And there are 4 cases in which ra is always with tarqeeq or light. Ra with kasra, ra with sakin and before letter having kasra, ra with sakin, before letter with sakin and before letter having kasra, and ra with sakin and before there is ya sakin. Before there is ya sakin. So no matter whatever letter before the ya is, but we have ra sakin and before the ra there is ya sakin. So we will read this ra with tarqeeq, light sound. And there are 2 cases in which we can read ra either with tafkheem or tarqeeq. Both are allowed. So when continuing reading, heavy letter with tanween kasra, with tanween kasra. So ra is sakin, before the ra letter is bearing kasra, and after the ra there is a letter with kasratain, double kasra. And we will read ra with either tafkheem or tarqeeq while continue reading. And when stopping, in the stopping at ra, when stopping on letter ra and a heavy letter with sukoon preceding it. If the heavy letter with sukoon preceding it and before letter is having kasra and ra is with sakin, we stop at this ra. So we will read ra either heavy or light. So hope understand all this. Inshallah, now let us see the examples of the ra. The examples, firstly the examples of the 8 cases in which the ra is with tafkheem or heavy. Firstly, if the ra is having fatha, for example, this is Ar-Rahmanu, Rahman, Ar-Rahman, Rabbuka, Midrara, As-Sakhra. So ra is heavy with fatha. And if ra is sakin and before ra sakin there is a letter having fatha. Wa arsala, arsala. We are making ra heavy. Qarnan, qarnan. Wal arda. So ra is sakin and before letter is having fatha. And third condition, if the ra is sakin and the letter before it is having sukoon and the letter before that is having fatha and when stopping on the word. For example, this is wal asri. Ra is with kasra. So if we read continuing, we will read this ra light. But if we stop at this ra, we stop at this word, we will read ra heavy. Wal asr. Wal asr. Like that. Similarly, wal fajr. Wal fajr. And fourth case, if it has a dhamma, as in kafaru, kafaru, wal qamaru, wal qamaru. Like we are making ra heavy. In fifth case, if the ra is with sakin and the letter before it is having dhamma. Al-Qur'an, Qur. We are making ra heavy. And for example, in Yahur, that is ra with fatha. If we read with fatha, then also we will read ra heavy. And if we stop at ra, then also we will make it heavy. Yahur, Yahur. And sixth case, if the ra is sakin, preceding by a sakin, which is preceded by a dhamma. For example, in stopping condition in this, if we are not stopping khusrin, then we will read ra light. But in stopping condition, when we stop at ra, we are making this ra sakin in stopping. And the before letter is having sakin, seen. And the letter before it is having dhamma. Khusr, khusr. Like that, we will make this ra heavy when stopping it here. And this is sixth condition. And let us see the next conditions. So the seventh condition, that is to make ra heavy, is if the ra is sakina and preceded by a presented kasra, and this is in Hamzatul Wasl, the ra is pronounced with Tafkheem, heavy, when preceded by a Hamzatul Wasl. If we start on the Hamzatul Wasl with the kasra, or if we continue from the previous word, in both cases we will read ra heavy. Irji'u, ir. We are starting with Hamzatul Wasl. Irji'u and manir tada. Heavy, we are making this ra. And eighth condition, if the ra is sakin and before is a kasra and after the ra is a letter with isti'ala, from isti'ala musta'aliya group, heavy letter, and does not have a kasra, meaning it has any other vowel except kasra. So we will make this ra heavy as in these five words. وإرصادا وإرصادا لبالمرصاد فرقة قرطاس مرصادا. Like that. And let us see now the four conditions in which ra is with light, we read with tarqiq. The first one is if the ra is with kasra. For example, rijzin wan nahari fariqan wadhkur isma. And if the ra is with sakin and the kasra preceding it, taghfir fir'auna. And number 3, if the ra is sakin, the letter before it is sakin and the letter before it is having kasra, this would occur when stopping in the this word. The word the example, the word in the example, if we stop at ra, we will read ra light. But if we are not stopping, then in that case also we will read ra light. It is bearing double kasra, kasratain, so we will read ra light. And if we stop at this ra, so in that case also we read ra light, because ra we are making with sakin when stopping, jim is with sakin, and the before letter is ha is having kasra. Hijr, hijr, like that. And fourth condition, if the ra is sakin and the ya sakin preceded it. Ya sakin precedes it. The ra in this case has tarqeeq. No matter what kind of vowel precedes the ya sakin, and when on stopping on ra, as in qadir, khair, wa kabir, like that. So these are the 4 cases in which we read ra with tarqiq light. And now there are cases in which we can read ra in both Tafkheem and Tarqeeq. Both are allowed. So inshallah we will learn this in the next lesson, inshallah. Hope you understand all this. May Allah accept from us and may Allah forgive our shortcomings. Ameen. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.